With the tools to decode music, you can play just about anything with strings.
Hey everyone, this is Scott Sharp with Fretboard Toolbox, and today I'm going to show you how to build chords on a mandolin using the Fretboard Toolbox method. The cool part about a Fretboard Toolbox method is that every G major chord, or any chord that you want to play, is made from the same notes no matter what instrument. So I'd always want to try to figure out how to be able to play multiple instruments, but I didn't want to go through and read a bunch of different beginner's books that told me how to hold the instrument and things like that. I just really wanted to get started playing. And once you know the notes that make up a chord, then all you have to know is where those notes are found up and down your fretboard, and you can play it all over the place. So to play a G major chord, I only need the notes G, B, and D. So if I know where G's, B's, and D's are here, then I can find a bunch of different positions that let me play that chord. Let me show you how it works on a Fretboard Toolbox. If you take a look at a Fretboard Toolbox Original Mandolin Edition and turn to page 5, you'll see it's the G major and E minor page. And if you want to learn to build chords, it helps to know which chords sound cool together in a given key. And so you'll see that in the key of G major or E minor, the chords that sound cool together are G major, A minor, B minor, C major, D major, E minor, and F sharp diminished. And you can use those chords in lots of different orders. If you look over at the chord jig and you see where it says under chord type major, to play a major chord you're going to use notes from the columns 1, 3, and 5. So if you look over and see what a G major chord is built out of, you'll notice the 1 note is a G, the 3 note is a B, and the 5 note is a D. So if I can just play the notes G, B, and D, then I can play a G major chord. And the cool thing is that that's a G major chord on any instrument. So if I look down at the pentatonic jig, then I'll see that I can play G, B's, and D's in lots of different places. One way I can play a G major chord is like this. If I look down on the 4 strings, I can see the open note is already a G, so I can just play that open. And the 3 notes are D's, so that's already part of G, B, and D. The neat thing about the chords is you can play those notes of the chord in any order. So I can play G's on the 4 strings, I can play D's on the 3 strings, and then on the 2 strings, if I play them open, that's an A note, and I don't want an A in a G major chord because I want G's, B's, and D's. So if I put a finger down on the B notes on the 2nd fret of the 2nd strings, and then G notes down on the 3rd fret of the 1st strings, that's a simple G major chord. And then if I can find any other combinations where I can play just G's, B's, and D's, I'm still playing a G major. So a full-fingered, 4-fingered position is of a G major. Looks like this, because I've got D notes here on the 7th fret of the 4 strings. I've got G notes on the 5th fret of the 3 strings. I've got B notes on the 2nd fret of the 2 strings, and then I've got G notes on the 3rd fret of the 1st strings. So that's also a G major chord. I can play a G major up here by playing D notes on the 7th fret of the 4 strings, G notes on the 5th fret of the 3 strings, D notes on the 5th fret of the A strings, and then B notes on the 7th fret of the 1 strings. So I can play G majors in lots of different places. If I want to play a C major chord, I still need notes from the 1, 3, and 5 columns. And on the chord jig, you'll notice that is C, E, and G. So if I want to play a C major chord, I can look down at the pentatonic jig and look at where can I cover just C's, E's, and G's. And it's important to note that you don't always have to play all 3 of those notes, but a good place to start if you're only going to play 2 of them is the 1 and the 3 notes, because the 1 note kind of tells you what chord you're playing, and the 3 note tells you if it's major or minor. So I can play a C major chord using just the notes C, E, and C. C on the 5th fret of the 4 strings, E on the 2nd fret of the 3 strings, and another C on the 3rd fret of the 2 strings. Or I could leave the 4 strings open since that's already part of C, E, and G. I can play the E note again on the 2nd fret of the 3 strings. I can play the C note on the 3rd fret of the 2 strings. And I could leave the 1 strings open because that's already an E. So that's a C also. And the cool thing about fretboard toolboxes is that you see the chords that sound cool together in a given key. So you already know which chords are going to sound nice. If I want to play a D major, if I look back at the chord jig, I'll see I need the notes D, F sharp, and A. So I can come back down to the pentatonic jig and see where can I cover just D's, F sharps, and A's. And a simple D major chord looks like this, with the A notes on the 2nd fret of the 4 strings, and then I can leave the 3 strings open because they're already a D. I can leave the 2 strings open because they're already an A, which is part of D, F sharp, and A. And then on the 1 strings, I don't want to play the E's because that's not part of D, F sharp, and A, but the 2nd fret has F sharp notes, so that is part of D, F sharp, and A. I can also add these guys, my ring finger and pinky finger up here, and that's a D major also because I've got A here on the 2nd fret of the 4 strings, F sharp on the 4th fret of the 3 strings. I can do a D on the 5th fret of the 2 strings, and then I could play just those 3 strings if I want, or I can leave the I can add a F sharp note on the 2nd fret of the 1 strings and play all 4 strings if I'd like, or all 4 pairs. And so we can G major, C major, D major, G major. And then if I want to play minor chords and I look back at the chord jig, I'll see minor chords are built from the notes 1, flat 3, looks like B3, and 5. So an A minor chord is built from the notes A, C, and E. And so if I look down at my pentatonic jig and I want to see where can I play just A's, C's, and E notes, then I can see that on the 4 strings, if I cover the 2nd fret, I can get some A notes, and on the 2nd fret of the 4 strings, and then on the 2nd fret of the 3 strings, I can cover some E notes, and on the 3rd fret of the 2 strings, I can cover C notes, and then with my pinky, if I add the A notes on the 5th fret, I can hit an A minor. Notice that major chords have a happy sound, and minor chords have a sad sound. If I slide that A minor position up 2 frets, here I've got B notes on the 4th fret, F sharp notes on the 4th fret, D notes on the 5th fret, and then B notes on the 7th fret. So here's a B minor. And lastly, if I want to play an E minor chord, I can see from the chord jig that that's built from the notes E, G, and B. So I could play just these bottom 3 strings if I want, and play E on the third string, 2nd fret, B on the 2nd string, 2nd fret, and G on the 1st string's 3rd fret. I can also leave the 4 strings open and play that same chord, because the G is a part of E, G, and B. And I can also add the B note up here if I'd like, because the B note is part of E, G, and B. So with those chords, G major, A minor, B minor, C major, D major, E minor, then you know 6 different chords that all sound good in the key of G major. Thanks for checking out my video today. I hope you found it helpful, and you can always learn more about fretboard toolboxes at www.fretboard-toolbox.com, and keep your eye out for more videos. I've got lots more coming. Thanks again.